listeners. We are back in black. Your host, Amira Moore, and your co host, Keenan Fry, are here in the studio, and we've got a special guest today. We've got the captain of the ship of the band Debrider, Johnny Nikoloff, with us today. And Keenan is going to start off the show talking to Johnny and finding out a little about his background. Okay, Keenan, take it away.
Hey, so this is a bit of a trip down memory lane because all three of us, Johnny, myself, and Amir, went to the same high school. We went to Carmont High School in basically Belmont, California. It's kind of a trip because if I remember correctly, Johnny, I met you when you were a freshman, but I was a sophomore. So you're like 1992, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a trip. So Johnny's 92, I'm 91, and Amir's I think 91 as well.
90, actually.
90. Okay. So pretty like sequential there, but this is kind of like a long way about it. So I met Johnny through the guitar club in Mr. Garcia's class in the back end of E Hall on the Carmont campus. And nice. Johnny was playing guitar, and he had been taking lessons from the local, it was like a guitar shop called Gelb. And they had been around since
good old Gelb in Rowwood City.
Yeah, they've been around since like, I want to say the 1940s. And when the original owners bought the property, and I think they're long since passed away. But it's a family-owned business. And then there's the famous Redwood City Fox Theater, and a lot of the people from Gelb used to play at the Fox. And I'm not entirely sure with Johnny's lessons there or whatever, but I remember he had been taking lessons there, and I met him.
May I quickly
make an addendum? Yeah. Go ahead and set the record straight, though.
No worries. So my guitar teacher actually was not from Gelb. He was a cat called Damon Carlucci. I apologize if there was a weird miscommunication on that, or
I thought whatever. You took lessons from Gelb. You didn't take lessons from Gelb?
I went there all the time. I still love that shop. Whenever I go back, I still stop in and just jam on whatever they got and just chat about gear, nerd out.
Okay. So talk about your
the teacher. Endorsement's fully warranted. Huge influence on my sound came from Gelb. And Damon was a huge fan of Gelb stuff. He would tell me, hey, you got to check this guitar out. Got to go to this shop. Got to go to this shop. He would just send me all across the Bay Area, just checking out guitar shops and luthiers. So it was a really big immersion into the guitar community. Had I stayed, now I don't really keep too much in contact, but I still try to go back and visit whenever I come back.
So that was the early influence for you. And then I remember your parents owned the sandwich shop.
Yeah,
the
Deli.
Yeah, and that was by the not the Redwood City, the San Carlos off of the El Camino, the Safeway.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's just a trip because that was 17 years ago, dude.
So long ago. And it's crazy to think that I took a small break on guitar, and then when I came back, it was weird because all of those years of playing came back in a rush, and I I took a break when I was going through college in City College in California, just because everyone was listening to EDM, and I was like, what's this bass thing that everyone likes to hear? And and then I heard Intervals, Periphery, Animals as Leaders, and I was like, okay, it's time to get back into the saddle. Took too long of a hiatus. It's time to get good again.
Yeah, dude, I remember when Animals as Leaders hit. That was in 2010. And
dude, oh my god, yeah.
That freaked people out. Okay, here's another trip down memory lane. So we have a mutual friend, Giovanni Epler. Shout out to Giovanni, who works at the Guitar Center.
Giovanni.
Yeah, who works at the Guitar Center in Hillsdale. So I remember I had a class my junior year with Giovanni. I think it was Algebra 2, though. And we're sitting in the Algebra 2 class, and he's got his headphones on before the class starts. And it's towards the end of the semester, so the teachers are kind of letting us fuck around and do whatever. And Giovanni, I go up to him, I'm like, hey, what are you listening to? And he puts his headphones on, and it's fucking Meshuggah's Bleed. And it just freaked me out. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? It's 2008. And like Johnny's listening to that shit the year it came out. He was always listening. Giovanni was listening to that the year it came out, and he was always listening to the most extreme shit that was out there. And it freaked me out. And I listened to it for 30 seconds. I was like, I can't listen to this. I took it off. I couldn't handle it.
And I think that speaks to, you know, his badassery and the metal community at the time, and even my perception of metal. Because like what I thought death metal was in high school, I first heard Creator and I was like, oh yeah, that's the stuff. And then, but it's thrash and it's like super close to it. And then I heard Morbid Angel in Carcass, and I was like, oh okay, so there's a little bit of a difference. But yeah, during high school, it was so cool to see him like playing some of this stuff, and I'm like, you just started playing guitar. How do you like? What is going on? Like, he was just listening to all this extreme music. Yeah, it was just so cool to see that. But yeah, I never thought I would be in a death metal band nowadays after how many bands I've been through, how many different styles I've kind of taken on, tried on, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a lot of just playing with friends.
You were in a band in high school, and wasn't that Guns Fall Silent, or what was that?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Guns Fall Silent.
And that
perfect high school band name.
That was you and a couple of your buddies from back then. So what was the deal with that?
Yeah, gosh, Will Davenport was the first
drummer.
person that approached me, because I think I don't remember how we met actually, but someone introduced us, and he was like, yo, you play guitar, let's jam sometime. And we jammed, and then we started a band. CJ Huntsinger, he's now doing electronic music. Car Zinger, shout out to Car Zinger. He's just doing like music production and stuff, helping out his community. I'm really happy to see it.
Hold on, that's a badass name right there.
Yeah, I know. CJ did Car Zinger.
Car Zinger, dude, so good. Yeah, it's good stuff. He's a local cat, and I'm not exactly sure what he's doing nowadays. Well, where he's at nowadays, but he's doing that. Yeah, and then Honoree, she was our first singer. And then Evan, they no longer go by Evan. I need to go back through my contacts, because it's been a long time since I've talked to them, and yeah, took a trip down memory lane. But yeah, we were a tight little 4-piece, and then we eventually had a girl named Nicole Hall. Yeah.
But
she was the singer.
You guys had a pretty early project, and you guys did shows, and
Yeah.
That was like when you were like 14 or 15.
Yeah, that was like within the first 5 years of me playing guitar. By the time I got to high school, I was starting to actually get good, because I was getting out of learning AC/DC, really early old Led Zeppelin, and I started getting more into Ozzy Osbourne.
Crazy Train.
Both Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath, Pantera, Van Halen.
Eruption.
Oh, dude. Oh, yeah. I think I played Eruption a lot in high school, and I think that's why I remember this rule in Guitar Club. It was no tapping. It was probably because of that song, honestly. Because everyone was just like, no. Everyone's like, okay, not everyone can do that.
It was no tapping and no pinch harmonics.
Yeah, because not everyone could do it, and I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Don't make the poor lesser guitarists feel bad, John.
No, it was funny though, because everybody has those early memories of what got them hooked on it.
Oh yeah, just listening to old recordings, listening to Randy Rhoads, and it was also hearing guitar legends just play solos for like 20 minutes. That was super inspirational for me.
Yeah.
There's a video of Van Halen playing a guitar solo for 30 minutes, and I think I would attempt to jam with it or practice just that solo after I would go home from school. Like, I'd do math homework and then just start nerding out on guitar and just play that video and just try to play. My sister probably could also talk about how much she's heard me just playing the same thing over and over and over and over. That's just practice, you know. You just gotta find this thing and attain this sound for yourself, so it's satisfying to play, and yeah, and then you start messing around with it and you start doing really weird, wacky stuff.
So now let's transition a little bit. So you went to college in Utah, and that's a pretty big shift going from the Bay Area, California, to like the heart of Mormon country. You know,
Yes.
like the Book of Mormon and South Park and all that.
Yeah, it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, you're out in the salt flats. You go from like the hills of the Peninsula, Bay Area, San Francisco, and all that to just like the salt flats. I mean,
Yeah, I
so
changed decks from forest and water to mountain and swamp.
yeah, it's
Pretty much,
you're landlocked. I mean, so
I'm landlocked. Yeah.
what was the reason for that?
Mostly skiing. At the time when I was leaving, I was kind of getting out of guitar and listening to other stuff, just hanging out with friends, enjoying not really being in high school, kind of dicking around in college, not gonna lie. I should have seized those times. So I was having fun. And I just wanted to ski. I just wanted to get my education done. And I was partying so much that my dad was like, okay, you gotta either continue your education somehow or you gotta find your own way to live. So I was like, all right, I'll go to college. So I was very gracious and very fortunate to have a lot of support and just, you know, kind of picking where I wanted to go. But I didn't want to pick somewhere that was too crazy. And I found Ogden because I knew that the Olympics was hosted in Salt Lake City. So I was like, well, that sounds like pretty good snow. So I'm gonna go there and ski. And Ogden has Powder Mountain, which is like one of my favorite mountains. It became stomping grounds for a long time, but I don't ski too much now because it's more focused on music and just promoting shows, getting the word out, working on stuff like that, working with
Yeah,
music.
and it's interesting because the Salt Lake City scene is known for some death metal. One of the bigger bands that's known that maybe some of the listeners will have heard of is Chelsea Grin. But you mentioned a few others like Cult Leader and Car Bomb, and maybe you want to talk briefly about the scene.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So um, the scene itself has heavy punk roots. I'm sure your listeners probably are familiar with the history of punk in Salt Lake City history.
Hardcore, right? That's where the X
Hard,
came from.
goddamn right, and it stayed hardcore. It's not as destructive, like physically. It's not like breaking things, but it's just as heavy and
Why
if
don't
not even more hardcore.
why don't you give me a second to ask something?
Yeah.
So hardcore, not everybody kind of knows like what that is.
Yeah.
So like why are you
If you take punk, go faster, but with the same riffs, it's like my image of it is a mix between punk and thrash metal, yet they know what a breakdown is and they can write breakdowns.
I love music. I love every kind of music, but recently I've really started to get into this thrash metal music. I don't know, there's something about it, man, that I just can't let go. It's great, it's great. There's this one band out that's called Napalm Death. And it's so hilarious. I mean, I listened to this album, I started listening to this album, and it was literally, I'm not exaggerating, that was it. You know, and I thought, you know, someday this guy's gonna want to slow down and do some duets. You don't bring me flowers. I'm a little bit country.
If you take punk, go faster, but with the same riffs. It's like my image of it is a mix between punk and thrash metal, yet they know what a breakdown is and they can write breakdowns. Because the hardcore scene, if you go faster than hardcore, you get into power violence, which is a new genre that's kind of in the grindcore subgenre.
Yeah, that's like Pig Destroyer and stuff like that, almost.
Yeah, local bands that are holding it down right now are Narc, Ribbons, Buckskin, and they're literally just hosting shows in the back of their garage, and just yeah, it's fucking sick. We got to play for Deconsecration from Seattle. They just came in and just played their garage, and it was tons of people, tons of kids, all ages. So there's a lot of local kids that are like liking it. The kids love this shit. The local scene of just like high school kids that just come to like all ages metal shows. It's lovely. It's awesome to see because they're into it and they're accepting of all different genres, all different subgenres of death metal. And it's super cool to see them get involved and just be excited for new music. So that I will give him a full shout out later, but yeah, they're that the whole power violence community and the punk community is still alive and well and still very active. And I think something that's kind of pulled me towards them is like their political activism. When something happens from like a local legislature level, they'll actually start posting like organization efforts to say, hey, let's go meet at the Capitol this time and just protest in opposition to whatever is going on. And I think that's kind of something that spoke to me, I guess, as I started getting more into the genre, because it just, I don't know, it just made me feel validated and caring about things that are just outside of my control, you know? So it's a very supportive community because everyone legitimately cares about each other and supports each other. And it's not like a corporate community where it's like, oh, your community. Not to say like the place I work at has any of that. It's just when you see large companies just saying like they're a community, but they can't pay their workers, right? That's like a break of trust versus everyone just coming together and putting shows together, supporting each other, putting each other on shows. We've had massive support, for example. Like we're a death metal band and we've had the power violence scene.
There's a lot of
all of the
crossover,
hardcore
it
scene just
sounds like.
have us on shows. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
There's a lot of crossover, it sounds like. We're going to get back to that in just a minute. We're about to hit the first break, and we'll get back to that when we come back. Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
This is Keenan, your co-host, and we are back from the break. So Amir is kind of uninitiated in the porno grindcore scene and power violence. So Amir,
Very much unfamiliar with this scene. You could call me an absolute noob. So Johnny, I'm gonna direct some questions your way to just find out a little more. Number one, what even constitutes porno grindcore? Like what makes this genre what it is? I'm curious. If you could just give a really quick synopsis.
Oh gosh. It's using porn, samples or influences from porn and involving it into grindcore, which can be very comedic because it's so chaotic. So it ends up working out. Grindcore, baby. Fucking love it. So cool.
I love it. And what separates grindcore from? So is it the comedic elements that separates it from the rest of like heavy metal, or is there like a musical element? Like I'm just curious if you might be able to touch on that for a second.
Gosh, porno grindcore, I assume it feels texturally a little different from other grindcore. A little more sticky.
Here.
But there's influences from porn. Either you'll take samples of women moaning, or maybe guys. I don't know. It's a subgenre, and as far as I'm concerned, every genre is for everybody. So
what about the power violence though? What's power violence?
Oh yes, power violence is much more of a critique on. It's like, what's that term called? When you have lyrics about pathological issues within society, that's kind of the general aim. It's also like a really good shit talking. Well, not shit talking, just like F this, F this. It's very anarchistic, I guess, in its nature. But power violence, as far as I know right now, is more of like looking at the things that some people face all the time and just giving it air to just let other people know, like, hey, I'm also feeling this way.
Oh, okay. So it's like call to the masses type thing. Okay.
Yes.
I see. That's cool.
Yeah. It's super fast and very textured. It's like if you were to take sludge, or like old Black Sabbath tone and just throw it into like a punk grindcore type of tempo. It's very, very textured, and there's a lot of overlap between grindcore and power violence, to where the General Violence Conference in Salt Lake City that's hosted by our community, they have grindcore bands come play. So there's a lot of intermingling with that scene right now. And it's a great thing. I saw it last year, and Disease is one of my favorite bands from can't remember where they're from, but shout out to Disease. They're brutal, two-piece. Nice. Super brutal.
So it's very political.
What does the X on the hand represent for the genre?
What is what?
The X on the hand that some of the members wear.
Ooh, I am not too sure.
The black X, the hardcore symbol.
Oh, I think that's straight edge hardcore, actually.
Yeah, that's Converge. They were the ones who brought that up. So my knowledge of that is that you have the Washington D.C. hardcore scene, and they were all straight edge. That's like the Henry Rollins era, and what's the name of that band that did the song Waiting Room? I remember the name of the song, but I can't remember the name of the band. And it's the guy who's friends with Rollins. But
that happens so often.
But I know that they did the thing where they put an X on your hand because it was an all ages venue, but they served alcohol, so you had to be 21 and up to drink. But to get into the show, they'd put an X on your hand so you couldn't drink. And then people, to be straight edge, they would tattoo the black X onto their hands, on each hand. But the thing about it that was controversial is it kind of became like a quasi gang symbol.
I was gonna say, can't that like be taken the wrong way, like very easily? Right. People having X's on their hands, like
right?
Like they'll be like, what are these guys up to?
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you guys don't have that in Salt Lake, or?
Um, I'm not sure. I haven't discovered it in the wild, to be honest. Like we haven't played a show or I haven't seen a show where a band has made a point to say that they're straight edge. Um, so it's relatively unknown to me. It's possible that it's out there. I just don't know, or to what degree they are straight edge. So I don't know.
Hey Johnny, so I want
Um,
to switch the conversation a little bit to a different area. So with the scene, what's happened post pandemic now with the scene? Like, have you noticed any changes, like major changes from pre pandemic? And if so, like, can you touch upon it a little bit and what you think on it?
yeah. I won't lie. Over the pandemic, I went into hyperbolic gravity chamber mode, and um, so before the pandemic, I was familiar with the jazz rock scene because I was in Morgan in the Mountain playing bass for Morgan Thomas and the myriad of musicians that we have. I'll give them all a shout out soon, well, later. But after that, I went on vacation because the band was kind of going their separate ways. And I was like, okay, well, um, I really like what Archspire is doing. I'm really inspired to write in that direction. And at that time, I met my drummer. So pre-pandemic, I was kind of unknown to the death metal scene and metal scene in Salt Lake City. I just knew it was around. I saw it from an outside perspective and would see local bands who were big playing with touring bands, but Aces High didn't exist, and there weren't really a lot of um, metal venues, but there were a lot of jazz and rock venues, as is there are anyways. To that scene, the jazz and rock scene, there's generally not a big difference, as far as I know. For the metal scene, I know it is a little bit impacted because there are still some people with, their own health issues that are cautious, and they kind of, they that's their choice to refrain, and sometimes going to see shows, and that's respectable. And a lot of the scene is also just pushing forward, and everyone's has already taken proper precautions and has already considered their immunity and everything. And a lot of people are still moving forward with a lot of music. So as far as I know, it seems like the scene is flourishing right now. A lot of bands that I've seen in the local community have also had bands that they've quit. There's been a lot of changeover, and I think one of the best examples of this is one of my early recent best friends, Max Muscolino, my bass player. He still plays in jazz gigs and everything. He's been playing jazz all his life and bass all his life, but he made the transition from jam rock and like some country stuff over to death metal, and that's that's for a lot of reasons, but it's also because it's just everyone kind of feels like they want to go in their own directions. Some people have used the pandemic to focus on their writing ability, their playing abilities. A lot of people hunkered down. A lot of people just went on vacation and just relaxed.
Right.
So it's everyone kind of finding where everyone else is at after that and moving forward in the directions that make sense for them. So there's a lot of there's a lot of really crazy bands going on right now. So I think ultimately it was a gift of time that people had to say, hey, I'm not seeing anyone, you're not seeing anyone, we'll just jam and write music, or they're writing music alone and they start forming bands with other people that have been doing the same. Or some people have been hanging out and they just want to have fun and, play live shows and just jam. And yeah, I'd say the music scene is flourishing though, overall.
Awesome.
Hope to see it. Hope to see it in the next year. See what happens.
That's great to know. So from your perspective, your own journey, how did it get influenced by the pandemic and everything going on? Like I know you touched upon it a bit right now in terms of that you hunkered down and kind of went your own way in some ways. But I just wanted to see if you might be able to touch upon as an artist, like how you decided to approach that time period.
You also mentioned Archspire was kind of like a big influence on you. So, like, is that something you really got into during that time?
So, yeah, I'm gonna back up a little bit because before I kind of quit my job at the time and went on vacation, I had the awesome opportunity to meet Aaron Marshall of Intervals and go to the music camp that he hosted in upstate New York. And it was just the coolest revitalization of getting back into music, that it just further solidified everything that I've been listening to. And at this point, I had Grant Us Eyes written and a song that we probably may not come back to written. But I was attempting to write death metal because I met my drummer, Bryan Blanco, all my bandmates are my best friends now. But that was the time when he was like, "Oh, you're talking technique in my bar. Well, we should jam. And have you heard of all these bands?" And it turns out I haven't heard of a lot of bands. Like at the time, I barely knew who Necrophagist was. I started listening to them, and I was like, "What the hell is this crazy music?" Because I heard Archspire, and I was like, "This is insane. I love it." And it kind of just sparked my my desire to get into like really technical music and death, early old school death metal, like debatably the first technical death metal. It was much more groovy. There was grind in it, but there wasn't a straight veracity of tremolo picking. There was some breakage and there was flow between the music, each part of the music. Each motif kind of had their place to play and to be accentuated on.
Yeah, the record Human is very infamous for that. That was kind of the record that really kicked off in 1990 the death metal genre. I mean, people will cite Leprosy, like John Gallagher from Dying Fetus. He has an interview where he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember the first time I heard Leprosy." Same thing with George Fisher from Cannibal Corpse.
Yep.
But to me, it really is Human.
Yeah, me too. That's when they had the changeover to the new drummer, and he brought this completely different groove to the music, as far as I know. And it was cool because, like, Nile was doing their own thing, Dying Fetus was doing their own thing, and then you hear Death, and you're like, I immediately know who Death is, because the drums, they have this groove to them, they have this attitude
Sean Reinhart.
where you're hearing, yeah, and you're hearing like pop. You're hearing like samba beats, and it's over like, it's just the coolest stuff. Or I'm trying to think of the songs.
It's Sean Reinhart and then Gene Gallagher. Those were the two big drummers from Death.
Yeah, they were both great, but during Human, I think that's where it took a new trajectory.
Awesome.
And
that's
so. Sorry, I kind of tangentially lost the question.
That was actually a great tangent right there, because it was great to learn just some of the background for me, and I'm sure some of the listeners that aren't as familiar with the scene to know sort of what's going on. I'm going to, though, segue a little bit into the next section, which is I just want to know a little bit about your hobbies outside of actual music as well. I know you're big into skiing. You talked about living in Utah, so like, what are some of the places you like to go ski, and like, what are some of the other things you like to do?
Yeah, I think everybody, hiking is awesome. So the entire Wasatch Front, you can kind of just you can just point a stick anywhere and just start, approaching the mountain that way. The coolest ski resorts that I've really liked are Brighton Ski Resort, because it's got like really good terrain for new skiers and snowboarders and advanced stuff. Snowbird is also super cool. I have been told that once the mountain changes with how much snow is there, and I'd really like to see that evolution. One day I'll be able to ski it for a couple seasons, and I'll be able to understand that. But the few times I've skied there, it's just been a great time. Powder Mountain's pretty cool. Kind of hidden gem. Probably should, and I've already said too much about it. And then Snow Basin. Snow Basin's, I think, where they had the some of the racing during the Salt Lake City Olympics. And that mountain, I would say, was a little bit more advanced. So it was kind of weird, because I was just skiing the mountain on my own. And at that point, I'd been skiing for a long time. And, there is a little bit of, humdrum over the skier community, it's just very male driven, I guess. So there's a little bit of ego thing. At the same time, I'm glad I never really got the ferocity of that, because I met like awesome people and awesome skiers that were just so glad to have more people to ski with and snowboard. to the point where we would just have random people just join a train and we would just, pick a line and everyone just runs down it. It was really fantastic. So although there is some like pretentiousness amongst like skiers, I didn't really see it much of that at a lot of these mountains,
Yeah,
and
Johnny.
it's very open environment.
Let's break right now. Listeners, we're gonna go on our second break of the show, and we'll get back with John. Hello, listeners. We are back from the second intermission. This is our last segment, or second to last segment, I should say, with Johnny Nikoloff, our guest for today, the captain of the ship for Debrider. And so this last segment with Johnny, we're going to talk a little bit about his living in the Bay Area versus living in Salt Lake City and living in Utah, and sort of the differences, because, we're all kind of curious about that. So let's get that started. So Johnny, basically what we want to know a little about is number one, you're familiar with the Bay Area, obviously having lived here, and now you're in Utah. So what are some of the big differences, like both scenic wise and maybe cultural wise, that you notice between the areas?
Yeah. The most obvious is our landlocking. So the food, I'll start with the food because food's amazing. Seafood is very select. You got to be in the know where to find really good seafood. Steaks, other things like that, burgers are generally really good. There's also a lot of Asian foods around.
So what are some spots you recommend? Maybe just shout out a couple spots.
Shout out to Chiqueen, fuck Canes, Chinatown
I like the
Eatery,
spice.
One More Noodle House, Teru Sushi, Beltex Meats, Snyder's Meats.
Hey, listeners, you better appreciate this. He's gonna end up charging you guys for this at some point.
I'm paid, actually, paid partnership to recommend all the farmer locals.
Okay, I like that.
And Jinya, because they have I could go on all day. Afghan Kitchen, Tosh's. There's so many good places, and then there's just the myriad of Mexican places that are just coming up everywhere.
And how
Mole
about,
is also huge in Salt Lake City.
And
There's
how about-
Mole War.
and how about the people and the scenery? Like, what about those?
Yeah, in Salt Lake City, it is a little bit of a bubble because it is very similar ideologically to like San Francisco, California culture. Outside of it, the more farther away you get outside of Salt Lake City, there's just less people, so it's more small town. So they generally know what's going on around their local community, so they don't have as much global information, I guess.
Yeah.
Plus, there's just there's a really strong appreciation for nature amongst everybody who you talk to.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time talking about you love the skiing and you went out there to Powder Mountain and you love the various hiking areas. What are some of the parks you like to visit?
Yeah, honestly, just the mountains of Ogden are pretty nice whenever I'm up there. Then there are Bryce Canyon. I can't remember the national forest, but it's in the middle of Utah.
You got a forest in the middle of Utah. Never
Yeah,
knew
high
that.
desert. It's crazy. Yeah. I think it's Dixie. Oh no, that may be closer to like eastern. And that's also beautiful. Duchesne County is
Have you been
also
to
pretty
Arches?
crazy. There's also Moab, where if you want to see some Mars-looking sand, go to Moab, Zion.
Yeah, I've
And
been
then,
to Zion and to Arches, and I also went to what was the one? What's the one with like the clay, like the red clay? Do you know which one I'm talking about? There's one that's like they have
Like
like
Bryce Canyon, I think.
Oh, okay, it is Bryce. Okay.
I think so. I could be wrong, but they have the cryptobiotic soil that's like ancient, and they're like, this is what it looks like. Don't step on it. It's way older than any of us. Prehistoric soil. It's so cool to see. And you're like, you're so ancient. Your soil growth, cool. I don't know. I love it. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful state, all year round. It has all the 4 seasons. I think that's what really kept me out here. I love the ocean. I love getting access to the mountains in the Sierra Nevadas. But I like just being stuck in the mountains.
We also have 4 seasons in the Bay Area. I go there every once in a while to go to the hotel. But yeah, in the winter it's like in the mid 50s, low 50s, and then in the summer you get the heat and all that. Yeah, California, we got the 4 seasons, of course.
Well,
yeah. Johnny,
what happens is you have the humidity, so you still experience it, but it's not the extreme of the weather. Like, I think it's only snowed at the peak of Coit Tower
and
a
Mount
very
Diablo.
handful of times in San Francisco, but it's like at that right elevation and humidity to where if it gets cold enough, it'll still snow.
What about you guys? How much snow do you get on average? Like inches?
Yeah, like 100 to 200 inches in the mountains. Snow doesn't generally last too long on the ground. The storms generally at most they'll get up to like 2 to 3 feet intervals, and other times they'll just go up to 11 inches or 6 inches, and it melts by the next day, or melts into the next day. So, yeah, the summers here really do suck. That's the only thing I don't like about it, because I like colder weather and it gets to like 100 degrees or 100 plus, and it's nice that it's dry, but it gets so hot during the summer. That's the only thing I would go back to California for, is the summer, because it's nice.
That's when you need Lake Tahoe to go just jump in.
Yeah.
Freeze your butt off.
So the hottest I've ever been in. So I spent my youth growing up on a houseboat out in Lake Shasta, Redden County, and that's like an area outside of like typical California that people know about. But you go out to Redding and
the dark side of California.
Yeah. So you go out to Redding and you go to Holiday Harbor, and the dock's aluminum, right? So it's 117 degrees out, and so it feels like a hot hair dryer is just on your neck. But when you step on the dock, because it's made out of aluminum, the heat hits the aluminum dock and reflects off. So it's like, those movies where you see the woman in the sunbathing with the aluminum tray and she's reflecting with the suntan. It's like that. So when you go to the dock and you're on the dock, it can be 123 degrees.
You can fry an egg in that.
Yeah.
Heat.
So what they have is this valve that shuts off all the gas pumps on the dock, because the gas ignites the second you start pumping into the boats. So like they have like a shut-off valve when it reaches over a temperature, and it's a kill switch. It's a dead man switch, so that the dock doesn't catch on fire. Because a couple of years back they had a bunch of fires on the harbor. But yeah, I mean, 123. That's like the hottest I've ever been in.
So sorry you haven't experienced that.
I've surprisingly enough, I've actually been in similar heat too. This is just a very quick like tangent, but mine wasn't even in the U.S. Mine was in Iran, like in the south part of Iran, and like it was even worse there because those motherfuckers won't even let you wear shorts. So I had to wear pants in that heat, go outside, like no air conditioning, the electricity doesn't work well, and I'm like, wow, this is truly a third world country.
And at that point, you gotta like keep the sun off of you. And some people like in the summer, I just wear like rags.
No,
just like just cover the sun.
Smart. Actually, it's smart. I always wonder too, Johnny. It's good point you make. I always wonder why people wear more sometimes when there's heat, but it actually makes sense in a certain sense if you're not wearing darker colors, because it just reflects the heat. And it like
there you go. And you want to keep baggy clothing so it keeps the sun off of you too.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Yeah, if I could wear
coverage.
if I could just wear like my silk robe everywhere, I'd prefer that.
Oh god,
Very
like
slave.
Hugh Hefner just walking around with a cigar, a silk road, and a guitar in the other hand. There you go.
Just be the dude for the summer. Yeah, I'd be down. That'd be way more comfortable than like. I would say it's more comfortable than a shorts and tank top, because you still expose yourself to the sun, so you're getting hotter, right? So,
God.
Wear a nice white blanket or something. Just drape it over you.
Yeah.
Or just wear a towel.
So
I don't know.
So you mentioned the fact that so just for your knowledge, I've actually been to Utah, and like I went on a trip with my mom and brother, and we went to most of the national parks, including also we went to Salt Lake City. And one thing about Utah that shocked me, and maybe you could tell me if it's still the same now, is how long you can go without finding any gas station or anything, like in the rural parts. Like, you're just miles on end.
South Utah. Yeah, there are, when you get to near Zion and Moab area, Dixie National Forest, if you venture out far enough, there is need for external gas tanks because there are only so many gas stations and they're about like an hour to 2 hours apart from each other. So yeah, it's the Wild West sometimes, and I've had gracious offers from some people that I've met that are like, yeah, if you're ever out and venturing and run out of gas, just call me up. I'll get you out of there, because locals know that you can get stuck in places. It's so adventurous that way because there's a little sense of danger, right?
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit.
Danger, Mr. Granger. Exactly, or however that saying goes. So we're gonna go. So Johnny, we're gonna go on our last segment. So we're gonna take a really quick break right now, and then start the last segment. So listeners, stay tuned as we go into your favorite segment. And I'm not gonna say the name because it's a surprise for Johnny, so don't spoil it. All right, if you do, I'm watching you. All right, see you soon, everybody. All right, listeners, we're back with your favorite, the best, our last segment of the show. And this segment is called Fucked Up Flashcards. Woohoo! Here we go. All right. Your co-host, Keenan, is going to start this segment off with our guest, Johnny Nikoloff, who's been here, this whole time. So get ready. And this is going to be a lot of fun. All right. Here we go. We're going to transition into it. Okay. Let's bring it on.
Okay, so right now you guys can see us, but in a minute we're going to flash over to Mr. Johnny Nikoloff. So, Johnny, the rules of Fucked Up Flashcards. You are supposed to answer these questions as fast as you can. Don't think about it. It's just like fucking off the top of your head as fast as you can fucking go. And it's called Fucked Up Flashcards, so it's going to be...
Tying my hair back.
Fucked up. Oh, yeah. You're getting ready. He's got to be aerodynamic. He's got to have the aerodynamics.
Listeners can't see him right now, but yeah, he's getting ready. He's tying his hair back, getting into the zone.
He's got a wind sprint this one. All right.
Let's go. So Johnny, the way this, as Keenan said, this is 2-minute timer. We're gonna ask you a bunch of questions. You just answer them as quick as you can.
All right.
Okay.
And we're just gonna blaze through these, and some of the questions have consequences.
Yes, they do. All right.
All right. To take it away, Keenan. Here we go.
Ready?
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. White Russian or Red Bull vodka?
Red Bull vodka.
Okay. Limp Bizkit or Corn?
Corn.
Okay. Dying Fetus or Cannibal Corpse?
Dying Fetus.
All right. You're never allowed to listen to Dying Fetus again. You have to listen to Limp Bizkit every time you want to listen to Dying Fetus.
No.
Carcass or Death?
Oh, Death. Shit.
Okay.
Death.
You now have to destroy every copy of every Death CD ever printed ever.
No.
All right.
Ever.
Meshuggah or Decapitated?
Meshuggah.
All right. Every time somebody listens to Meshuggah, you have to slap them in the face. Pantera or Lamb of God?
Sorry, last one?
Pantera or Lamb of God?
Pantera.
All right. Tased in the balls or maced in the face?
Mace in the face.
All right. The Hangover or Shaun of the Dead?
Shaun of the Dead.
All right. Now it's Mears.
All right. My turn now. All right. Gary, Johnny. Baby Metal or Dragon Force?
Dragon Force.
All right. You're going to have a baby slam you to the ground 10,000 times.
All right.
All right. Skiing or guitar?
Guitar.
You're never allowed to play guitar again.
Yep, never allowed.
No.
Okay. Purgatory in an unending Bay Area traffic or instead in the LA General DMV?
Traffic.
All right. You're going to be stuck in the DMV for the rest of your life.
Shit.
All right. Ski into a tree or fall off the ski lift?
Fall off the ski lift.
All right. You're officially going to be stuck in that tree now for a long time.
No.
Okay.
I fell in the tree.
Salt flats or mountains?
Mountains.
All right, all right, you're gonna get stuck in the salt flats for a long time. All right, Bryce Canyon or Arches?
Bryce Canyon.
Okay, all right.
All right,
So Arches is gonna get bulldozed now, and it's gonna become a shopping mall.
Yeah, it's gonna be a Macy's and a Hot Topic.
Perfect, and right on time. That was a great job, Johnny. You answered all the questions, and as you saw, some of the consequences are disastrous for your choice.
I'm gonna die.
All right. So the last question is, what would you do for
a White Claw? What would you do?
What would I do for a White Claw?
Yes.
I would attempt to do a handstand.
All right. So we expect you to do a handstand, and as a courtesy gift from the LFG podcast team, we're gonna send you a thing of White Claws.
Oh shit! All right,
Everyone...
make sure it's watermelon.
All right,
our singer loves
good.
watermelon.
All
White
right,
Claws.
watermelon White Claws. We'll send you some.
Yeah,
sounds good, but we better see that handstand, boy.
I'll post it. I'll tell you guys.
All right.
All right, sounds good. Okay, well then that concludes this episode with our special guest Johnny Nikoloff, everybody.
We got one last thing though, Johnny. We offered you the chance to do a quick shout out. You had some friends that you wanted to mention and name. If you want to mention them real quick, we would love to know who it is you want to talk about.
Oh gosh, okay. It's gonna be pretty much everybody that I've played music with in the past few years because you're all amazing. Morgan Thomas, Dearth of Earth, Nathan Van Wee. Then we're gonna start going through the bands. Baby Girl, Shecock with a Vengeance, Van Moon, Lindsay Heath Orchestra. We love you, Lindsay. Fight the Future, Mouth with a W. Don't Apologize, Stable Wren, Beneath the Sparrows, Racist Kramer. Don't let the name fool you. They're amazing people. Cop Drama, Spirit Machines, Doom Cupcake. Love you all. And then Violent Unrest, Narc, Ribbons, Suffocator, Snuff Tape, Amoris, In Your Grave, Moonteeth, Lowlife, Hatera, Wolf Blitzer. Love you, Wolf Blitzer. Dearth, I think I already said them because I love Matt. Moon Wizard, Bone Storm, All Brothers. Blind Magus, Fern, Sacrilegion, love you guys. Al Ghul, Admitted Bastard, Hemwick, Pound, all homies, and people that are a part of my tone. R.I.P. Custom Shop, Robert Gray is amazing, great player. Go check out Toxic Holocaust as well. Black Harbor Strings, Locals SLC Guitar String Company. I know they're expensive, but they sound. And Thomas Griggs, because he is a fantastic guitar player and amazing human being.
Yeah,
love
and
you
if
all. And
Johnny,
LFG, thank you for having me.
And if Johnny forgot to mention you, it's because he hates you and he's not your friend anymore.
Immediately go to that. Exactly. No, I love you all. I know I'm forgetting some people. There have been a lot of jam band influences in my day, so if I forgot you, please just
forgotten
call me out.
Hated.
Oh, but seriously, that was actually a fantastic shout out. A lot of names, and a lot of very interesting names too, to say the least.
Yeah, anyone you didn't name is now gonna get rectal cancer.
Get wrecked, son.
Man, what a bastard over here.
What a bastard. Rectal.
But we both knew this going into it, and listeners know by now too. So
get fucked.
Oh, it's an inside joke. Oh man, there's lore.
So, anyways, all right, now for real. We're gonna conclude this episode. It's been fantastic to have you on the show, Johnny. We both really appreciate having you. We had a lot of fun. I think we got to know you a lot better, and just find out a lot more about your journey. And really, sincerely, we wish you all the best going forward.
Yeah, fuck you. Get a haircut, you hippie.
Well, at least I
meeting
do.
you.
Okay.
Keenan, don't ever fucking talk to me again.
All right, with that, we're wrapping up this segment of LFG with ANF. Great to have all of you with us, and catch us next time. Stay tuned, everybody. Take care. Bye.
Peace.